Welcome back, cretins, to Nerd or Not. If you haven't heard the previous edition, then please refer to the description below to catch up. Now, let's continue where we left off the discussion with Miles from the Best Darn Diddly podcast.
For all your interrosity needs.
So, since we're on the topic of Simpsons and Springfield and all that, and we have a Simpsons
hell of a town.
Mm-hmm. How about we talk about something that I was actually hoping would blow over, and it kind of has. I haven't heard a whole lot about this in the last couple of weeks, but this is something that kind of like it irked me as a Simpsons fan. I'm sure it irked you as a Simpsons podcaster, Miles. But let's talk about this Much Ado About a Poo.
I just had one a few hours ago. It was pretty easy, actually.
Did you use the squatty potty to put your colon in the correct position?
No, I'm still one of the unwashed, ankles planted firmly on the ground.
I'm telling you, it's a real thing. My in-laws have one, and it will change the way you poop.
And there's one thing that I want to be sure that I take care of before I die. I want to poop correctly. I want to follow.
It's important, man. I mean, that's if we're doing it wrong, why not fix it? I'm just saying, just because it's unconventional. Yeah, it's a little weird to hike your feet up next to the commode, but it is what it is.
The funny thing is that when somebody first sent me that, there are like I don't know if this is giving out too much information, but there are some days, there were some weeks. No, too late. We're talking about feces anyway. So what fucking like a ceremony are we standing on at this point? There are some weeks where you have like maybe too much meat. Like one day you're having barbecue, 2 days later somebody.
I literally never had that problem.
Well, okay, well, good. At least as far as like your stomach's concerned, but your butt might disagree. So what they do tell you to do if you're backed up too much is that you do hike your ankles up, and I have done that before. So yeah, somebody sent me that, and they're like, "Hey, remember that thing about the hiking your ankles up you told me about?" And I'm like, "No, not really." But
so you're saying you're really getting your money's worth on that sex swing?
Totally. Tell you what, and the wedge, but I don't have to explain how that works into the equation. Anyway, yeah, squatty potty.
I think we derailed again. You wanted to talk about Apu, the beloved Simpsons character, is I think what you were going with there.
Yep, and not bodily functions.
Yeah, we went a different direction there. Yeah, I am with you so far. I also is a little bit. My immediate reaction was a little bit of annoyance, but I did, feel that it was justified to hear the guy out. So. What was bothering me is there's so much promotion for it going into it before the movie actually became available. And it seemed like a lot of people were getting, I mean, it's just Twitter. That's how Twitter is. But it seemed like a lot of people are becoming very, very heatedly opinionated about the subject before
Corey,
they
want to
even
take this?
actually saw the documentary itself.
Fuck Twitter. I actually used to be like a fucking Twitter power user for a while. Because it was like back in the day, it was like hashtag games, keeping up with stand-up comedians. And I would get a lot of video game news, not just video game news, but indie game news. And that community fucking fell down sharply after a certain point. But back in November of 2016, I posted something fairly fucking innocuous. There was a controversy about comic books. There was 2 comic book covers that people were bitching about at the time. One because some group of people felt that it was. I don't really know how this pissed people off, but there was a comic book character wearing a T-shirt that said "Ask me about my feminist agenda." That lit a bunch of people off. And inversely. You know what I'm talking about. Inversely, there was a comic book cover for another character. It was a changeover character for Iron Man, and it was a girl who was taking over the mantle from Tony Stark. And a particular artist drew her, who was very like encased in 90s tropes. So it looked a certain way. Another group of people lost their collective shit about it.
Was it Iron Man with boobs?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, if you got to distill it, sure. It was a girl who was putting on the suit now.
Isn't it by definition sexist for them to say that we can't have a badass woman who I also am sexually attracted to? I mean, is that so wrong?
I
I'm
don't.
not saying it can't be both. I'm just saying why can't maybe she wanted to look like that and also kick ass in an iron suit. Like don't set your agenda in her mind is all I'm getting at. Let her be her own creation.
Well, the prevailing argument for that side of it, because I try to consider most of the factors of like of talking about certain things like this. Like I'd assume that's the first thing you do when somebody confronts you with issues like this and be like, okay, well, maybe it's because a dude drew her. Okay. And I guess that's fair. But the thing is that they're just screaming their fucking opinions at your fucking face for a good 28-hour period. And then they move on to the next fucking bit of outrage, like carrion. And it's like, the thing that I pointed out was like, boy, both of these covers are pretty neat. Why are we pissed off at these again? And then people started yelling at fucking me about that.
Well, you sexist son of a bitch.
I was getting this in stereo from people who hate feminists and from people who hate whatever these guys were pissed off about. And it was like, I haven't seen something positive on Twitter in like a good 2 weeks by this point.
So I'm lucky to live in a really cool Twitterverse that is mostly filled with Simpsons fans.
Yeah,
that's what I mostly tweet about. So I more often than not deal with really cool people and have very few of those issues. Now, I do also dabble in the wrestling world of Twitter, which can have these insanely heated debates at times. Especially when you bring up certain controversies that have happened in the past and certain just characters. But the Simpsons world is where I mostly exist on Twitter. And so I have a safe space, if you will, where mostly it's just people making, sarcastic jokes or, pretty just referencing a lot really is what we do more often than not. If we're being honest.
And the nice thing about that is that you can't be too married to a concept that's so closely associated with like the Harvard or the National Lampoon and the Army Men guys without having a healthy, and I mean a fucking healthy dose of humor about it. Exactly.
Most of the people I interact with have a sense of humor is really the bottom line of that. But that's actually the one thing is, I mean, I'll be honest in my tactics. I ride the Simpsons hashtag, trying to seek out people that I think would be interested in my show and interact and, bring them into the podcast fold, if you will. Yeah. But when the Simpsons hashtag was trending with the problem with Apu, it was bringing out a certain quality of Twitter users, I'll say, or a certain type of Twitter users that definitely seem to wanting to be, striking, throwing out accusations of people and,
this, that, or the other.
Yeah. And, it opens up a kind of a can of worms in so many ways. And I don't want to say that, like with I'm going to jump a little bit, but like with something like South Park, that show is out to make fun of everything. And the reason it's okay is because they make fun of everything. But as soon as you say any one thing is not okay, then nothing is okay. And it creates all this like whole like crumbling thing. It's like if you pull out, a card in a house of cards and one thing's not there, it all crumbles. Well, The Simpsons, I don't even go like that was a big thing I'd hear is like, oh, The Simpsons makes fun of everything. You shouldn't be offended. It's like, but while on one hand, I agree with that statement. On the other hand, Apu isn't a character that is being made fun of. Apu is a functional, healthy, interactive with his community. Like he's a prominent member of society. He's a business owner. He's married with families. He's done a lot of cool shit that he should be proud of. And when this documentary came out and I actually took the time to sit down and watch this documentary, I'll give him that it was well made and that, he had, it was well edited and in the sense that like as a filmmaker, there's that, but as a documentarian, I felt that he did a pretty bad job. It was very, very obviously biased. I mean, it was
extremely one-sided.
Right, and he really didn't have any opportunity to and honestly, I felt a lot of the interviews were even twisted. The one that I took the absolute most offense to was when he was having a conversation with Whoopi Goldberg.
I got that too. Yeah.
Whoopi Goldberg has a collection of minstrel artifact, like people that did like blackface and all sorts of terribly racist portrayals back in the day, and she actually keeps artifacts from that time period, and I think that's a kind of an interesting collection in a lot of ways. But Harry tries to put Apu in that same light, and even at one point in the movie, Whoopi's like, well, I wouldn't say he's a minstrel act, and she's like, he doesn't like sing or dance. And the way they cut it, Harry sorry, I have it right here, it's Harry Kondabolu has basically just this smirk on his face where he's like kind of implying like, oh, yes, he is. And they immediately cut to a couple of the times where Apu has sang on the show, but it's not in like, oh, he's making fun of India or any other type of thing. It's like things like the monorail song where the entire town is participating. He's not singing because he's a minority. He's singing because he's a part of society.
Yeah, that's it. That's delivery in bad faith. And unfortunately, that's a lot of how Twitter gets business done nowadays.
And so many people linked onto that, and it's just, I'm at the end of the day, I'm a 32-year-old straight white dude, and I'm not going to try to pretend that I've ever had the Indian American experience. But in every thing I've ever seen, Apu is depicted as nothing more than the type of person that I would want to have in my life, like a type of friend or family member type of person that I would be like, oh, he's somebody that is dependable. He's somebody that is contributing. He's not a scary person. And they even try to point that out in the documentary at some point. And in a lot of ways, isn't that maybe a good thing that, Apu puts a friendly face on a culture that, a lot of people, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but I'm saying there's many people in America that it's not like they hate anybody. It's that they've literally never seen any Indian people or Mexican people or black people. And it's not like they're like, oh, I dislike you because you're different. It's like, oh my God, you're different. I've never seen somebody that looks quite like you. And there's a human fascination that is natural and that occurs in us. And people like to jump and just take any little possible thing they can and say, oh, well, you're discriminating and you're racist or sexist. And it's just overkill.
The only thing I can add to this is that at least with as much familiarity with this documentary as I have with it, I have actually not seen it yet because as far as I know, it's just on True TV and there's no other access to it anywhere else.
That's where I was able to watch it. Yeah.
All right. For one thing, I like to point out that before this documentary, nobody knew who this stand-up comedian was.
Convenient.
So there's that. The other thing I want to point out is that if you had to take anything negative away from the depiction of Apu or how he is manifested within the narrative framework of The Simpsons, he could be seen as a grotesque stereotype, but it's not a wholly negative one. At least when you consider that he's a fucking cartoon character, like everybody else in The Simpsons, really. and there's justifiable grounds possibly for a discussion to be had there.
I would say, who's more offensive, Apu or Bumblebee Man?
That's the thing.
Don't even go there because somebody will latch onto that shit. And need we point out
documentary?
Need we point out that Krusty is like a worse,
oh yes,
more unforgivably depicted stereotype than Apu was in his entirety
for sure.
The entirety of his existence on The Simpsons.
Well, for the show, for the podcast, I watch all of the episodes with the director's commentary, and obviously all the commentary I'm watching now from season 5 was recorded in 2004, so clearly long before that was ever even a spark of an idea.
Whoa!
And this is something that actually comes up. They talk about the various groups that they've offended over time, and they get a lot of letters and calls. But they actually, the Simpsons staff themselves actually point out that, and it's something I've said a couple times on my show, but I just think it's a really fascinating fact. They have broken it down, and there's no group that they have taken more shots at, no nationality, no race, no organization, other than the Irish is their number one target. They have so many jokes at the Irish's expense. And as of 2004, they had not had one single complaint from any organization representing Irish people or the Irish in any way, shape, or form, versus every other group they've received some sort of complaint in some sort of fashion.
Jay, where are you, man?
But yeah, and I'm sorry, there was that's a really awesome anecdote.
I love that.
But beyond that, even if the genesis of like Apu's creation, which I believe is rooted deeply within Graining Zone, Graining Zone formerly occupied like urban setting where you absorb like all of these cultures and its archetypes and the superficial traits of each one, because before the Simpsons it was just Graining doing life in hell,
yeah, the rabbits
and a lot of it was references to living in a city and in areas more populated than where the Simpsons is, Springfield. Anyway, that's temporal. The origins of those characters, all the misunderstood and kind of crude, are also temporal, and so are people's reactions to them, which is why you got weird shit like people calling out Warner Brothers for Speedy Gonzales back in the late 90s, except for Hispanics and Latinx types who were like, well, these are positive qualities, right? I mean, yeah, he wears a sombrero, which nobody's done on this continent for a good 150 years, I'm pretty sure.
Except for white people in Cancun on spring break. That's
exactly
the entire sombrero market right there.
Or people visiting the Epcot Pavilion in
yeah. and that the people protesting on behalf of the culture that Speedy Gonzales is supposed to be lampooning, or at least assaulting in that context. I don't know. As time goes on, we're going to look back at this and people are going to be like, I suppose a lot of these superficial qualities were really broad and kind of distasteful in certain contexts, but is this really all that bad? Especially considering, well, I don't know. I'm pretty sure you've heard about the short circuit issue, which is an issue.
I only vaguely know of it, and I really just remember loving the sequel to Short Circuit when I was a kid. That's really all I remember about it. But yeah, the portrayal of the human in that movie, I believe, was somewhat controversial.
It was controversial at the time, too. That's the thing. It's not like somebody unearthed this treasure of outrage that they can then exploit given the certain social climate on Twitter or wherever else and suddenly drag that out for people to experience like anew as if it's never been addressed before.
Dude, sorry, I don't want to cut you off, but I totally just realized that we're living in an age where very soon somebody can come out and be like, dude, you can't do that portrayal of a robot in that movie. That's offensive to robots.
You're gonna hurt their AI feelings.
Oh man, that's
coming. Hopefully, assuming I die of natural causes, I think that happens in our lifestyle or in our lifetime. If I get hit by a car tomorrow, obviously I'm not gonna see it, but
that's yeah, and hitting close to the Blade Runner nerve too. Shit. But yeah, it's I don't know. I see a lot of it as exploitative, at least now, for reasons that you had detailed already. But afterwards, like, where do we go? Because there's the initial outrage. This dude sold his documentary, so he's already kind of met his finish line with it.
Yeah, he's good with The Simpsons. He's probably actually everything I've seen from him on Twitter at this point. I think he's annoyed that he has to still put up with the Simpsons hashtag just because it's going to be permanently attached to him at this point. And he's just like, I'm so tired of talking to people about this documentary. I want to go do comedy now, and he's kind of got himself.
Make it.
Yeah.
That's all me projecting for what it's worth. He might still be in love with that shit for all I know. But
I think secretly if he's a stand-up comic, he loves his own work.
Yeah. And our approach is to what he's trying to say is also admittedly two-dimensional because it's just us. We don't live inside of his head. Hopefully.
This isn't like a John Malkovich type of thing where you crawl through a little door and just get to make bad documentaries.
Yeah, close. And hopefully we don't pay rent either. But
at least on the way out, you hear, "Thank you, come again."
We have achieved coda. Thank you, Bob.
Well done.
Now that we've gone full circle here, let's have some fun. You guys want to have some fun?
Yeah, show me the fun.
Having fun already.
We were having tons of fun. Now it's going to get. By the way, I haven't shown you my shirt, my Mr. Clean shirt.
Oh, dope!
Holy
dude.
shit! Where did you get that?
Online somewhere.
Online. Somewhere.
I got it the same day I got this guy.
So
Miles, go ahead, pimp your stuff right now.
you got that from tpublic.com, where if you go to /bestdarndiddly on that, you can find all of my show's merchandise. We got some cool stuff, much like the mug that Bob is currently Vanna Whiting, and some vinyl stickers with some of our various designs on those as well.
Got some of these guys.
That's wunderbar.
Beautiful.
tpublic.com /bestdarndiddly.
Well done. Well done. And how many donuts are those? Or do you not accept donuts as payment?
If they allowed it
out.
as an option, I probably would. They should look into that. But yeah, they're going to be taking quite a hefty fee and putting it into their own tapped out city.
Oh, all right. I'm not going to tempt that fate, by the way. I kicked my tapped out addiction a good long time ago, and I don't need that monkey on my back anymore.
Come back to
Oh,
I actually just restarted my city recently because I actually got completely deleted not too long ago. But
I heard about that. How far into it did you get before?
I wasn't super far into it by any means. Like I hadn't even gotten my monorail built, so whatever level that is, I'm just now getting to the point where I'm about to surpass where I was when I lost it the first time.
I was disgustingly far into it when I finally said, "All right, let's."
But for what's worth, I haven't spent a dime, y'all. It's tough at times, but I just refuse to put any actual dinero into those games. The type, the pay to win type of stuff.
Or pay to collect. In this
case, I'm not that. I like collecting shit, but I'll take my 6 donuts every 4 weeks. Just my income, just fine.
Please, sir, may I have some more? Yeah,
in 2020, by the time I get to revisit Springfield, I might actually have enough to finally get Barney's Bolorama, but I'm not going to keep my fingers crossed.
Yeah, well, my secret shame is that I spent money on it. So the further away I am, then
yeah, you got to be careful, man. Keep the wallet and the Simpsons tapped out as far away from each other as possible.
Exactly. And sometimes I look at that tablet and I'm like, you know what? You can still tie me up just for old time's sake.
Well, Miles, we did want your opinion on a couple of things. Corey and I, like yourself, we grew up on The Simpsons, and I was in a fortunate situation where the Fox affiliate where I lived for a number of years would re-air The Simpsons twice a day, every day, and I just got into a rut. It's like, all right, 6 o'clock, 6:30, we're watching The Simpsons while we're eating dinner. And when they finally changed that format, I think after 6 years, they said, all right, we're going to change some stuff around. I was like, never watching your channel again, buddy. I'm done.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah,
you have disrupted the routine.
I actually see a lot of people complaining about TV schedules for a lot of networks on The Simpsons. Sometimes they're praising, to be fair, but more often than not, they're like, why won't you play blah, blah, blah episodes or whatever? I have not watched an episode of The Simpsons while it's airing in rerun form or new form. It's so long at this point. I either watch them via the DVD set I have because I'm old and whatnot, or for the case of the new ones, is I will occasionally get on there and I be honest, I don't watch all of the new ones, but when I do have the time, I'll watch some of the new ones, and I just stream them, of course, because that's the easy way to do things.
They have a lot of seasons on Hulu, and I think on the FX app they have all the seasons.
All of them.
I think you're right. Yeah, FX. Yeah,
I need to get schooled up, especially for that large chunk of the show that I missed.
Yeah, so same here.
There's some of them at this point that I haven't seen, that there's a big chunk that I've missed in places, and I'm not going out of my way to avoid them, but I think there's going to be something fun and fresh for my podcast when we get there about getting to review an episode that I've literally never seen before. I think there's something to that. So in some regard, I'm holding off and going to kind of do some of those episodes in the moment. But of course, we're in season 5 right now. So I'm at the point where literally every episode is somebody's favorite episode.
Yeah.
Between 3 and 8.
I think that goes on for like the first good decade, because I was one of those people that didn't give up after no, there's like a certain threshold where people were like, yeah, this is when they start sucking. And I know it's generational because that threshold keeps moving up.
The most common one, you're right about the generational. There's the strongest divide point is the episode in season, I think it's like one of the first episodes. It's the second episode of season 9. It's the one where we find out that Principal Skinner isn't really Principal Skinner. He's
I remember.
Yeah, exactly. And so many people at the time were so angry about that. It actually caused a rift in the fandom, and there are people that claim that was the day The Simpsons died. Now, I'm going to say that was bullshit. The Simpsons was still good for quite a while after that. And in fact, I didn't ever stop watching The Simpsons because The Simpsons got quote unquote bad. I stopped watching The Simpsons because I got busy. I was in, college or,
That's exactly it.
Stuff like that, where I had other things going on. And it's not like I fell out of love with The Simpsons. It's just like Bob had said earlier about rescheduling the show. Life just gets in the way sometimes. And especially nowadays, I mean, good Lord, there is so much television to watch that is really good that you have to pick and choose what you want to see, because there's just no way you can watch everything that you can't stay current with everything you want to stay current with. I mean,
I'm already giving 6 hours a week to wrestling. I mean, how much more do you need?
Yeah.
It is such a burden.
And that's assuming there's no pay-per-view. I mean, that's going to throw an extra 4 hours on your weekend.
I can't even keep up with the wrestling. Like, I tried to for the sake of these two guys, but it's just like, oh god damn it.
See, I love it. That's the show that I really don't mind watching. I love keeping up with it. There are times where I miss it, and it's odd because I don't mind watching like a YouTube review either. So it's this weird continuous soap opera for it just never stops, and it's great. So I love that aspect of it, but at the same time, along with The Simpsons that I watch a shit ton of every week, there's so many shows out that are just getting great reviews, and some of my favorite old shows that you want to go back and revisit. And it's just getting to the point where it's just like, there is so much media coming out now. I mean, shit, Disney literally owns everything, and they're just pumping stuff out constantly. Plus, then you even get stuff like you mentioned, Hulu and Netflix are making their own shows. And they really actually roasted Netflix really well on South Park this last season, if you guys keep up with that show. Another show to keep up with. But they're not wrong. They basically imply that Netflix will literally put anything on their network. And that's
true.
Kind of, there's so much stuff. I mean, it's like literally it's every single day. It's like, we have 4 new shows available for you, plus a stand-up special and 3 original movies. And it's just like, when did you film these? Like, there's not enough earth to film all of this stuff at the same time. You don't have enough space available.
I remember about a few months, if not about a year after they started streaming on a regular basis, I saw something, it was like, I'm just flipping through. It's like, what's this movie? I never heard of it. It's like some foreign movie. And I was watching it, and about 30, 40 minutes into it, it's like, this is porn.
It took you 40 minutes to figure out it was porn, Bob? Are you certain?
It was softcore porn, but it was still, showed all the hardcore bits.
I'm just saying, at the point that you've got 30 to 40 minutes in, you have made a conscious decision that you're like, yeah, it's porn, but we're watching it now.
I don't know. It could have been the Ninja style, where they're actually trying to develop a story before, Wang occurs.
Yeah, next, that's what I'm going to say is,
couples going around the world, and they're watching all these music concerts, and it was like, all right, I see where they're going with this. And
we listened to some music, and now we gotta fuck.
And now they're boning on the bed, and you're seeing everything.
Well, to the credit of the story, the concert that led to said fucking was probably, I don't know, Isaac Hayes or something.
Nope, it was like some kind of indie rock pop.
No, it was Weird Al. Right, it was just
Weird Al.
Because, man, you listen to some Weird Al, you gotta...
Is that what he meant by eat it?
And he's gone.
Savage. Anyway,
so anyway, Miles, let's pick your brain on a couple of things and try to salvage this. I had a couple of questions I wanted to ask you. Corey had a couple of, like at least one big question that I've actually wondered about. But first, in your opinion, where is Springfield?
In my opinion, Springfield is in Oregon, and it's mostly because Matt Groening has said that is in fact where Springfield is now.
yeah.
Yep.
That kind of disrupted my illusion of it.
I honestly really am disappointed by that. I think that like if they would have just kept purposely throwing, because there's been so many times people have tried to prove different things. And to be fair, Matt Pat, if you guys watch damn it, what's his YouTube channel called?
Game Theory.
Yeah. He got it right before Matt Groening announced it, for what it's worth. He did put some clues together and figure out that it was in fact in Oregon. And I want to say one of the clues that was not used, but Richie the Whiz Kid, my co-host, actually brought up on our podcast a while back when we were talking about it. He brought up the football schedule is actually a clue to the fact that the timing of football games compared to when churches puts them by default on the West Coast. And that was actually an interesting little tidbit I would have not have gotten, honestly. Yeah, but the fact that I think it was Homer the Heretic, the episode he did where Homer basically decided he'd rather watch football than go to church. Essentially, like the timing wise on that, like football starts in the afternoon and evening for us. Chicago, I think you and I are in the same time zone, Corey, Central Time. And then, of course, yeah. So for us, it starts, afternoon, evening, but Homer was missing football games in the morning. So anyway, there's stuff like that, but the mystery is unfortunately dead now, technically. Mm-hmm. I liked it better whenever they were just like, honestly, they should have just purposely done things so that it would be impossible to figure out. Like it could be, there's a desert nearby and it rains 360 days out of the year, but also we average 112 degree weather and we've got an ocean on all sides, yet we're landlocked, shit like that.
Yeah. How it just kind of existed as its own little Brigadoon or postmodernist suburban Brigadoon, but one nonetheless.
I even like the fan theory where the Simpsons exist in a tesseract, so that explains why the concept of time and space just don't matter to the Simpsons. They're not real things.
Well, I mean, I think foundationally that's probably it, but because it became like such a thing for a long time, and it's so difficult to remember that The Simpsons has been going on for like 20 years, which is
before the internet. Like we didn't have the option to ruin these discussions by being like, oh fuck, these clues say it's Oregon. It's like, no, this would be the shit we would like talk about and debate and fight with each other and be like, no, idiot, it's got to be this. Don't you watch The Simpsons at all? God. Simpsons
is old enough to be doing fan fiction episodes of itself, which are granted, the weaker episodes you can see now, but they're there. And it's so weird. Sorry, that's another thing. But I remember for a long time, it's a skill I have. You just have to roll with it sometimes.
With you, dude. I'm having a great time rolling with you.
For a long time, people were like conjecturing that it was a Midwestern town. And I like the idea of it being in Kentucky because nobody ever sets anything in Kentucky fucking ever, except for maybe one or two shows. And this is me being very glib, that take place in Louisville. But whenever somebody thinks of like a quintessential like middle American sort of a city that The Simpsons commonly satirizes, Kentucky's not even on the map. People go to the extremes. They're like, oh, Ohio's where we're going to do it first, and it was like, oh man, shit. All right, yeah. Let Kentucky have this then.
Springfield really was such a great name choice, though, because it really can be just about in any state, and I'm sure other places. But, another point to your Kentucky theory is they have a shit ton of moonshine in The Simpsons. Yep. And that would actually fit in really nicely in the Blue Hills of Kentucky.
And how weird is it that, like, radially speaking, if you try to pinpoint Springfield in any one state, there is going to be a Shelbyville somewhere fucking near it. You know what? Like, all the time.
You beat me to it because I believed it was in Kentucky for a long time because here's the weird thing. The capital of Kentucky is Frankfort.
Right.
The airport in Frankfort is called Capital City
Yes.
International. And just to the, I'm looking at a Google map over here, just to the west of Frankfort is a town called Shelbyville,
Mm-hmm.
and right outside of Shelbyville is Simpsonville.
Oh wow.
Oh wow. Huh.
Now let me see
Well,
if where is Springfield, Kentucky?
What we're
if they
saying
have
is
one.
Matt Groening is wrong. Springfield is in Kentucky. We've decided.
The guy who created The Simpsons
Clearly
is
doesn't know
wrong
what he's
about
talking about.
everything.
Yeah.
That's right. The fans are correct. We own the keys to the kingdom.
Springfield, Kentucky is about what looks like an hour and a half southwest drive of Frankfort. So it's nowhere near Shelbyville because they're supposed to be neighboring towns. But they did move Springfield in the show.
It's true.
That's true.
They did. It's like the Lost Island, bringing us back to the whole Brigadine thing, or Brigadine thing. Somebody spun the frozen wheel. I'd like to start a Lost podcast just to like have people airing grievances for 2 hours about how pissed off they are at the last season. That's pretty much it.
Well, Corey, you had a question about someone who might, if you were interested.
Yes, I did. Oh my gosh, yeah. I want to know if Jay Sherman is actually canon with The Simpsons, because legendarily speaking, Groening kind of likes to distance himself from the critic, even though Rice and the other guy, Al Jean.
Mike Reese and Al Jean, yeah.
Even though it's their creation, yeah.
So the critic did originate on The Simpsons. We haven't gotten here yet, so I haven't done full blown research, but just a little bit from curiosity's sake. And my understanding of how it works is the Jay Sherman character was created and featured on an episode of The Simpsons. They were created by Mike Reese and Al Jean, and then they liked the character so much that they actually, at that point, they weren't actually the showrunners anymore, so they weren't necessarily as involved as they once were. I think they were at that point just EP doing the producer thing. How it's been described, just showing up and more so approving things more than anything. And they kind of went full blown ahead on the Critic series, which of course got a couple seasons there. And that is something, when we get to that point in the show, something we've discussed doing. Not sure how we're going to handle it just yet, but sounds like maybe you might want to come and join us for this. Is we do want to spend a podcast or possibly even 2 podcasts going through the Critic series, just not as in detailed as we do with the Simpsons shows, but just kind of an overall history and a little bit of information on how that world does connect to
that'd
the
be
Simpsons
fantastic.
universe.
Yeah, I'd like to run down the all the seasons of the Critic before. Well, not all of them. That who has that much time? Well, maybe.
Right.
Anyway,
It didn't run that long.
Turns out if you don't sleep, you can get a lot done.
Yeah, no shit, right? Maybe us dying is just having sleep like taken away from us. Not to
catching up.
Get all morbid anyway, but outside of that, so you're saying that not only is The Simpsons canon, but it actually predates the Critic show. Or I'm sorry, is Jay Sherman canon, but it predates the Critic show.
Correct. Yes.
Interesting. All right.
The Critic is, I believe he's going to, if I remember right, and this is just me taking a shot in the dark here, could be completely whiffing, but I think he's going to be reviewing like a McBain movie or something like that, is how he actually gets introduced into the show.
Yeah.
And then from there, he becomes his own spin-off series.
All right, because I remember that there was plenty of Jay Sherman crossovers, especially after the show got canceled, funnily enough, because they love poking fun at the cancellation, the failure of the Critic, which you guys, you're testing my patience with that shit. But I'm one of those guys that will not only remember the Critic fondly, but in my darker, more inebriated moments will be like, guys, just not even a DVD set? What did I do? I mean, so
that's not available on DVD?
No, they never collected it.
Really?
Not on videotape, not on DVD.
I could have sworn there's a DVD.
Not on Blu-ray.
Yeah.
And I keep looking, man. That's my fucking crucible, is finding the fucking Critic.
My best guess is it's one of those properties that has changed hands between ABC, Fox, and some movie review website. It had a couple of specially made episodes. It's probably at the point where we don't know who the hell owns this thing anymore. So it's
so nobody can make $1 off of it. Yeah. I don't know if you guys have fond memories of this show or not from Nickelodeon, but I'm also a fan of the show Pete and Pete from the early 90s. And I've heard this tragic tale that the first 2 seasons of that show, there's 3 seasons in total. The first 2 seasons of that show have been released on DVD. The third season, from what I understand, was produced, printed, and ready to ship, and the company's ownership changed hands. So all of the like opening logos and credits and whatnot on the box would essentially be advertising the wrong company. So the rumor has it that these DVDs are literally just sitting in, I believe it's the Shout warehouse, unable to be sold, and they've not done anything else to like get the third season out there. So the only thing available are those like shitty VHS rips that have been put up on YouTube, where you can.
Which, like the Star Wars holiday special.
Exactly, yeah. But to be fair, I actually really love watching the old commercials in those. So it's like kind of cool, but it's such shitty quality. It's kind of tough to deal with at times.
Yeah, you'd be like fucking floored by how often that shit happens. Like I'm surprised that the Back to the Future was even released on DVD when it was, because that was like a mythical mess for the longest goddamn time.
When it originally came out, or one of the anniversary editions?
Well, it was initially printed for an anniversary edition, if I remember correctly, back in 2003 or 4. But before then, at that time, I believe Universal owned the rights, but the original distribution was, and correct me if I'm wrong, 20th Century Fox. But I remember that for the longest time, they could not get the rights to even the individual movies because the release rights were in so much red tape. But eventually Vivendi Universal was like, you know what, we'll just buy the whole fucking thing. We'll buy that part of your studio just to get Back to the Future underneath our product wing. And then you got the anniversary compilation. But for a long time, like even on VHS, you couldn't find them past a certain date. Like throughout the 90s, no Back to the Future. Or no Back to the Future 2 and 3 at least.
Interesting.
Yeah, but there's other shit like that. Like there's this game that Jay keeps wanting to play called NoN Lives Forever, which was like during the heyday of first-person shooters, but it was a 60s mid-century modern styled sort of a spy shooter kind of affair. Heavy on the style, heavy on the aesthetic, but because it was underneath similar copyright protections in that it used software developed by somebody under this wing, and then it was released by Vivendi Universal afterwards, and Valve has something to do with it. That's at least like 3 or 4 different corporate entities that own a piece of that pie. Now, I don't know if you've heard of a development studio that does like retroware called Night Dive Studios.
Doesn't ring a bell.
Okay, they bring back stuff from the 90s and reverse engineer it so that it can be played on modern day systems and operating systems.
Oh, cool.
And they did like Seventh Guest, System Shock 2, classic stuff like that. It's been like kind of a mission of theirs to get NoN Lives Forever and the sequel released, and they haven't been able to do that because of this huge political mire. So about a year ago, both games were released with restructured code and full compatibility on a myriad of modern-day operating systems from a anonymous coder. And a lot of people are saying, yeah, this was actually just Night Dive. They couldn't release it and make money off of it. That's all that is. So you can now play those things brand new, no middleware whatsoever, as long as you know where that link is. And so many other stories and like fucking properties and stuff like that are in similar situations. Who knows what we haven't seen because of this shit. But anyway, yeah, I know. Sorry. I apologize a lot.
Fucking
I'm sorry for that.
Politics and red tape ruining our entertainment.
Politics about fandoms, like the real world shit that matters. Whatever. Who cares? I don't know. What's an election anyway? Who cares?
It clearly doesn't matter to anyone else, so why should we care?
So yeah. Anyway, Springfield, that was that.
Still a hell of a town.
Always. Good in animated form, better in fiberglass form, as has been proven in recent years.
Da, 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 da. And now it is time for Nerd or Not, idiot.
Now, Corey, this is something, this is a little surprise we have for Miles.
Okay. Oh, the trivia, right. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, shit. Can I phone a friend? Can I get my co-host on here and help me out?
Do we allow lifelines?
No.
Is that a thing?
Fine. I got this.
Oh, okay. All right. I tried not to make him crazy, like insane, like minutia oriented difficult. But I also didn't want them to be like, hey, what was the title of the episode where Bart got hit by a car?
Oh
Or-
yeah. But that
Mark
one
gets hit
was
by a car.
Mark gets hit by an automobile.
That's the only one I know by
Yeah.
name.
So
So basically, Miles, how this podcast started is we would talk for a little bit, and then at the end of each episode, we would quiz each other with like nerd trivia and whatever. We try to build up points, and then
And see
eventually,
if you're a nerd or not.
yeah, exactly.
yeah.
And then we eventually is like, this is getting dull. Let's stop doing this. But now we have a reason to bring it back.
Well, I'm about to get roasted, but it's cool.
Well, here's how we're gonna do this. Corey's got a question of ranging from season 1 to 5, so
Okay.
it covers the shows that you've been covering right now.
Oh shit! It was ranged.
That's fine. That's cool.
What do you mean, Corey?
Okay, well, there's one question from a recent season because I felt we weren't getting enough representation of it.
It's fine. I'll
also-
take a stab at it.
You know what? Then that's probably fair because I haven't seen it.
All right.
All right,
Okay.
let's just go with it. So what we'll do, Miles, you get the first crack at it. If you can't guess it right, I'll see if I can steal it.
Okay,
And it's 5 questions total.
let's see what happens.
It's a good concept. All right. Well, we're starting. We're starting with definitely first 5 season lore. Herman, who everybody knows as, I believe, the military antiques dealer. He was allegedly a caricature of what legendary longtime Simpsons writer?
That would be John Schwartzwelder.
Yeah, that's it. Oh, I'm sorry. Whoops.
Corey's getting excited about this.
Yeah, no, it's just the funny thing is that like I just actually started reading about the genesis of the Simpsons because I saw that documentary about National Lampoon.
Okay.
And and it goes into like its influence on Saturday Night Live and other stuff like that. So yeah, that was really cool.
John Schwartzwelder's an interesting cat, dude.
Yes, he is.
Very camera shy, doesn't do a lot of publicity, and it's really funny because there's been more than one occasion where I've been listening to the DVD commentary because he's very involved in the seasons I'm reviewing now, and they're like, and our director John Schwartzwelder is supposed to be here, but he pretty much just doesn't show up for these things.
And that became like a running joke through the commentary, didn't it?
It did, yeah. So far, I'm only 5 seasons in, but so far it sure did.
So it's kind of like Matt Damon with Jimmy Fallon.
Yeah.
All right,
That was a good question.
That was a good
Name-
question.
Oh, thank you. I do try. Name at least 3 characters out of the more than I would have guessed, voiced by John Lovitz that are not Jay Sherman.
Okay. Let me see here. Oh, it's Marge's other boyfriend from high school. I'm blanking on his damn name right now. Is one of them for certain. Okay, I can do it this way. He's
All
the
right.
drama teacher for Marge in a streetcar named Marge.
That's one of them.
He is Marge's other fling. I keep wanting to say Artie Pie, but that's not right. It's something.
You're
with a
half
name.
right.
Artie something, and I'm blanking on the end. But that guy. Who else can I get here? John Lovitz. He does so many damn voices.
Let me ask you, have you seen the one yet where Homer inadvertently saves the power plant?
Yes, and he sure as hell plays Shelbyville's power plant owner.
Okay.
Something Aponopoulos or something. Nick Aponopoulos, something like that.
That one's a tricky one.
That's a tricky
I'm
one
so
to
bad
pronounce.
with names. If that wasn't clear, like I don't know if
Well,
you'll got that.
You got his boyfriend or Marge's
Artie Ziff.
Marge's
Ziff,
boyfriend,
yeah.
Artie Ziff, or high school fling. Llewellyn Sinclair would have been the director of A Streetcar Named Desire.
Yep.
And then Aristotle Amadopoulos, which you could have just said Shelbyville's power plant owner would have been fine because fuck Greek names.
Yeah.
Can I say one?
Oh, you want?
Get
go ahead.
some
I don't
bonus
know
points
the-
over there.
Like yourself, I don't know the name of the character, but he was also the art teacher when she was
Oh yeah, when she
painting
painted.
the Ringo Starr paintings.
Yeah,
That's
and
it.
she painted
Yep.
Mr. Burns naked.
Yeah.
That's it. There are a couple of gimmies here if you want to try. One of them I don't know because it was from a recent episode, but one of them I feel is like kind of cheap, and it's from an episode that I feel that pretty much all of us have seen. You don't
Okay.
remember that one at all? That was the one where Maggie escapes from the daycare.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
The
yeah.
Andy
That's the Llewellyn one. That's the streetcar named Marge.
Yeah, that was
That's the same episode.
that was supposedly Llewellyn Sinclair's wife, also voiced by John Lovitz.
Oh, I thought it was his sister.
Or sister, yeah, something.
Yeah.
Who they never give her first name. It was just Mrs. Llewellyn. So
Right.
Yeah. Let me see. Mr. Sikovsky, the shop teacher, or Homer and Barney's shop teacher, and Enrico Irritazio, which was from an episode called Homerazzi, which I've never seen because it was a more recent one.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one, or if I have, I don't know it by name.
All right. So that was
Some half points in there. I
was
wouldn't
half
give credit for it.
points.
I'm too strict.
He gets
points
it.
in
I give it to him.
from Bob. Yeah. Okay. So next one. What was? Let's break these up a little bit. No, actually, these are in pretty good order. What was the?
Good job, pass me.
Thank you.
Holy shit! 3 hours ago, me.
Yeah. What was the grand prize Barney won at the Springfield Film Festival for Pocahontas? This is one of the best episodes.
Duff beer. I don't know. I don't remember his prize at all.
Because you remember what the film was about, Pocahontas, right?
Honestly, I barely remember this one at this point, just by name. Pocahontas is not ringing a bell.
It was the short film that Barney made about his struggles with alcoholism.
Oh, it's the same one with Football to the Groin for Mole Man. That episode? Yep. Okay, yep. Yeah.
And another one with Jay Sherman.
Yeah. Now I remember the episode. Yeah, and it's like a real artsy black and white film, and he's laying on the beach, I think, at the end. Yeah.
Don't cry for me. I'm already dead.
Yeah, that's a great episode. Still no idea what his prize is at the end.
The film was about alcoholism, and its Simpsons does love them a bit of irony. So it was a lifetime supply of Duff beer.
Right on.
Hook it to my veins.
Hook it to my
veins.
veins.
Well, that's the tour. I love that one. Tour of Duff Gardens, where Barney's like, "Oh, I'll drive home after Homer gets arrested for drinking and driving."
All right. So I kind of knew that Bob was going to know that one already. So it's we'll say that you got Sports Elder, half and half to question 2, and then Bob, you knew that one, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So it's 2-2. It's 2-2. Okay.
All right.
Next one. This was a more recent one because it was from one of my favorite episodes out of the whole show, and it happened within the last 4 years, which kind of amazed me.
Okay.
Instructed.
So this one's the wild card.
This is gonna be a tough one.
Yeah. Instructed by Marge to purchase a laundry machine in the episode Q Detective, Homer is given a Ziploc bag full of money by Marge in order to do so. Where, though, does Marge get the bag of cash?
From her hair.
Nope. That's a big red X. Bob with the pickup? Yeah, we don't have a buzzer.
I would have guessed. Here's your buzzer.
Oh, there you go. Nice.
I'll put it in post.
Yeah, good. Movie magic. I got you.
Yeah, I would have guessed her hair as well because that's her Mary Poppins bag.
That's her go-to. Otherwise, it's that crawl space in the attic whenever they show in between the floors. Whenever they pan from the ground floor to the second floor.
Now I might be telegraphing this by mentioning that it was an episode that took place after Simpsons Rama, but hopefully it's not.
Oh, okay.
Where apparently the Futurama and Simpsons universes were confirmed to be intertwined, or at least
no, they actually they crossed over. They actually had the cast on the show, and they did the same thing with Family Guy, which was not. I like the Futurama one a lot better personally, but.
Yeah, I heard some things about the Family Guy one that it was more or less a studio mandate or something.
And it was very much a Family Guy episode more than it was a Simpsons episode.
Yeah.
But that doesn't answer your question, sir, and I've stalled long enough. I don't know. Where did she get it?
She got it from Bender's corpse, and I put corpse in quotation marks because he's a robot, I guess, in the basement. Apparently, Bender is still in their basement, powered down.
No joke.
Yeah.
Fascinating. I almost guessed Bender as a joke, and then I was like,
All right, question 4. which goes back in the familiar territory. Which of the 3 cities, multiple choice, by the way, which of the 3 cities Grandpa mentions as cell stops in Grandpa versus Sexual Inadequacy does he not mention? Does he not mention? I'm going to read them down.
I love this episode for what it's worth.
It was a good episode. A, Mount Selbum. B, Lake Placid. There's a Lake Placid in Florida, so that was really funny to Floridians. C, Frigid Falls. D, Red Nook.
I'll go with C.
Frigid Falls?
Sure.
Bob, you want to pick this up?
I'm gonna say Red Nook.
Red Nook. Yeah, Red Nook's an original.
Damn it.
So that one goes to Bob. Have fun with that little bit of trivia. Use that in a job interview if you can, but you probably won't. Unless you're interviewing for The Simpsons as an archivist. Question 5. Final question. What 2 important Simpsons characters died in 1995?
This one's
95.
really... Wait, 95?
95.
I think I know this one.
2 characters that died in 95.
Yeah.
Not 99.
Nope, not 99.
Okay, just double checking.
Yep, back during the golden age.
Yeah. So I was thinking it was somebody tragic, but if it's not 99, then that wouldn't be correct. 2 characters in 95 that died. Wow, I'm like right there in like I'm not quite there yet. Actually, is the
This
thing.
dude thinks he knows it, but I'm gonna crush
Bob
those
has
fucking
it.
dreams. He thinks he does.
I think I'm probably way off, but I think I know this one.
All right. Well, it's
I'm gonna go with. I can't even remember if he already fucking died or not. Bleeding Gums Murphy is one, maybe.
uh-huh.
And then the other one is, man. I'm blanking on the other one. I'll let Bob go for the steal.
All right.
Was
Bob?
it Dr. Marvin Monroe?
Son of a
Now, this is where I'm going to go ahead and recant my former claim as being that prick, because this is a trick question. Do either one of you remember the 138th episode Spectacular?
Yes.
All right, then you would know that the correct answer is none. If you guessed Bleeding Gums Murphy and Dr. Marvin Monroe,
Those
this is
characters were
incorrect
never popular.
because they were never important
Yep.
or pop.
Plus, they brought Dr. Monroe back.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He was like implied to have died for the longest time. But apparently there's like some trivia behind that too. Apparently Groening just got tired of the character, and the voice actor, his voice actor, apparently it strained Hank Azaria's voice, or was it Harry Shearer? One of those two.
It's not an easy voice to do.
Yeah,
so,
I can see that being tough.
So nobody liked writing them, and nobody liked performing them, so they just stuck them on the shelf. And then brought him back for some weird reason.
That is strange with the bring back, but I guess they needed a doctor character.
Yeah. So really it just comes down to who got the 4th question, which would have been Bob, which means, Bob, you win nothing.
Good job, Bob.
Ooh, I guess.
I think you need to have Richie on for the rematch, because that's his strength right there. He's the trivia
that's
guy.
his thing, is the minutia.
Oh, yeah.
Nice. All right. Well, I'll try to draft up a fresh new batch of not really all those engaging questions for the inevitable what have you. Anyway.
The rematch.
Is that what it's called?
Sure, let's go with that. But either way, good job, Corey. Those are good questions. Good questions. I love those.
Those are tough, man.
Thanks.
Miles, I'll let you know that I was actually banned from a Simpsons trivia contest once.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you learn too much?
Well, yeah. They told me at the end of the show, it's like, we're doing this again next week. You can come, but you're not going to play.
Oh, wow. That's crazy, man. Good for you.
Yeah, because I guess they didn't want me walking away with... their reasoning was I was being way too competitive than I should have been. It was supposed to be for fun. I was having fun because I was getting everything right.
That just sounds like loser talk from the rest of the people. Did you go to trivia night in Shelbyville? Because that seems like they're tight.
I got a fresh batch of lemons too. But this is the part of the show where we talk about what we are doing. Corey, you doing anything special?
That's debatable. Not really. It's just I'm still on my continuing mission to open up a hard drive space on my PC. So after having done what was the last ancient or at least antique AAA game I did was Bionic Commando. I'm playing through BioShock Infinite now because that takes up a good 30 gigs. And
how many days did that take to download?
BioShock Infinite. I downloaded it like back in 2013, and I haven't gotten around to playing it until just now. So I'm gonna go ahead and guess.
You might need an update, dude.
It's Steam, so the shit updates.
I'm just messing with you.
Yeah. I think.
What game was it that you posted a photo recently that you downloaded and the readout said 3 days or something like that to download?
Fuck me. That was Overwatch because I hadn't played it since October, and when I moved. You know, I have like the lowest tier of internet service here right now because honestly, nobody's going to want to hear me in the building. Nobody's going to want to hear me playing Overwatch because I get loud and obnoxious. So I don't get trolly and shit, but sometimes I don't react very well to being trolled. So I'll get on the mic and start being unpleasant, and I really hate it when I do that. So I'm just like, if it triggers that much self-awareness, I'm pretty sure none of my neighbors are going to appreciate this either. So I just fucking, but I updated the game because you have to update your game. And it took like fucking 7-8 hours. All I remember is that I let it sit when I went to work. And when I came back, it was about 3/4 done. So anyway, playing BioShock Infinite. It's a good game. It's pretty great. I don't know what I could say about it that hasn't been said to its strengths already, but I will say that in terms of setting, how many people here have played anything of this game whatsoever?
I played a little bit, but honestly, I never got super into the BioShock series.
Right. Okay. All right. So I'm not really spoiling anyone's good time by.
No. Talk away.
Cool. Okay. A lot of the it's not a horror actioner like BioShock was, which I got way into, and I'm still into this game because the people that make these games really know how to set up a mystery, at least in my opinion. But because this one's like action-y, the tension has to come from somewhere else. And as it turns out, the reason they set it in 1912 is because everybody was racist as fuck. And and even though this is like a spec fiction version of it, where like a lot of that architecture is set on ion rockets and floating everywhere and stuff, and it's like outlandish. They still are trying to adhere to the, I guess I could call it the authenticity of social mores at the time. And that's an interesting thing because it's like a cliched grievance that people like bandy about right now, where like you could like people drag out Mel Brooks as an example of what you are and are not allowed to do in pop culture or pop entertainment nowadays. And it's like, this game didn't get that memo, and so a lot of what you're doing is like dodging bullets, and man, you're dodging a lot of epithets in at least equal or double measure. So that was an interesting thing to kind of get cozy with throughout progressing through this game. But I mean, like I said, it's a AAA game. Everyone's played it by this point, and it's old fucking news. I'm enjoying it though.
Hey, cool. Man, it's not quite old enough to be retro, but, it's getting there.
Okay. Here, let me drop this on you. BioShock, the first one. You remember when that was released?
07-ish?
07. I remember not being able to afford a console or a PC powerful enough to play that shit.
Yeah, I remember that too, but that's because it kind of still exists to this day for the
That's true.
Gaming PCs are insane, dude. Like I've never, honestly, I know it's getting easier, but like, I know there's a divide here, and I don't want to like start like an East Coast, West Coast beef or anything, but I am on the console gaming side of things for sure, just because when I do have the time to game, I want to put the disc in, I want to hit start, and I want to fucking play. A lot of times,
get on with your life.
Right. I don't want to have to worry about like, oh, but this game needs a new graphics card, and now I don't have enough RAM or memory, and it's like, and I hate taking computers apart and putting them back together, which is like a necessary step if you want to be a gaming computer guy. It seems
it does seem like that sometimes. Yeah. No, yeah. I completely read you. Like, I'm not a discriminatory gamer, and I try not to like.
I'm glad you have that option available. I'm not one that's like, PC gaming is stupid. Why don't you just play on a console like a smart person? But
because you do have to build your box a lot of times, and it is a big fat pain in the ass, isn't it, Bob? So
yeah, thanks again for helping me build mine before you moved.
You're very welcome. Fuck that thing. Anyway, what are you doing?
I am finishing up. I just finished up the main storyline when it comes to the new DLC for Breath of the Wild.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and I bought the DLC back when I got the game, and that gave me some DLC right away, gave some more DLC in the summertime, and then I just recently got the one for December, and wow, this was I don't want to spoil anything because, man, I
really don't want you to, because I actually just got Switch and Breath of the Wild for Christmas. I just started playing Breath of the Wild yesterday, like for the first time.
Nice.
So I'm enjoying it so far. I'm actually pretty well into Mario, just because that's a lot easier to get into when I was traveling for the holidays. But yesterday I had a block of like a few hours in a row where I'm like, oh, I'm going to dive in. And wow. A lot of fun so far.
Okay, so how many hours have you put in already?
I think I put about 4 or 5 hours in yesterday. Is all I've
so you're just getting your time.
Like literally, I've only made it to like the second town. Like I just got to the. I don't feel bad spoiling this part. I just got to the town where you meet the old woman that looks like a little girl.
Okay, I know exactly where you are. This part of the DLC I just got. This won't spoil anything for you.
Sure. Yeah. No, I trust your judgment.
You can only participate in this challenge that it presents to you after you've completed most of the game. You don't have to complete the entire game, but some vital parts are required because you have to go back. This challenge requires you to go back and redo a few extra challenges. But basically, it starts off with it gives you this weapon that is basically a one-hit kill. It has 2 uses, and then it drains its energy, and then you're left with bow and arrows after that because it doesn't let you use any other melee weapons.
Oh, so nightmare mode, huh?
Yeah, and the trick is all your health is reduced down to 1/4 of 1 heart.
Oh, geez.
So
holy shit.
You can one-shot anything you attack, but you can be killed by a sneeze, basically.
Whoa.
That sounds insane, dude.
It is a little crazy. It requires you to be very stealth and learn how to hide around stuff and sneak up behind people and kill them. That unlocks 4 shrines. Then you defeat those 4 shrines, and that unlocks 16 extra shrines. And they're all challenges. You get your hearts back at this point, and the payoff at the very end is so worth it. Have you ever had something spoiled for you and you didn't realize it was spoiled until you had seen the actual event itself?
Yeah, I think I know what you mean.
One of these things, I saw it online. I was like, that's strange. Did somebody mod their game to make this particular thing? And then I completed the challenge and I was awarded this thing.
And you got the sword of 1,000 truths right there in your hands.
Nope, I got something so much better. It's so cool. I got it and I was like, what?
Well, now I'm excited to get there.
Yeah, we'll
have to dive in after this.
Or you're disproportionately hyped up and what you find at the end is going to be comparably disappointing. So hopefully that doesn't work or that doesn't happen.
Anybody who was disappointed by this payoff needs to stop playing.
Oh.
Of course, at this point, I was saying I've put about 190 hours into this game. So
holy crap, dude, that's a lot.
I'm not exaggerating. I think that's the accurate amount.
Yeah, most people keep describing this as like big time Bethesda commitments or levels of commitment to a game.
Yep.
And most average Zeldas are like maybe about, I think at their worst, probably 60 hours. At their like absolute worst, you checking everything and trying to find all the hidden heart containers, whatever the fuck else is going on, doing all the subquests.
I think I put about 40 or 50 hours into both the let's see, one of them was Twilight Princess, and then the other one that came out on the Wii.
Skyward Sword.
Yeah,
I'm actually playing Skyward Sword right now.
It was pretty fun. I liked it. I'm definitely liking Breath of the Wild better though so far.
I'm honestly I know that a lot of people expressed disappointment at this because it was, according to them, not up to par with the rest of the Zelda games. I'm probably putting this one at the bottom of my Zelda queue or appreciation list, because there are some parts of it that are at their least Zelda-ishness kind of downright suck. And that's not something I'm used to experiencing from Nintendo games. And by suck, I mean frustrating. There are some parts where where the motion controls will get in the way of you enjoying the game.
Yes, I will 100% give you that. Whereas I didn't feel that way with Twilight Princess. I felt like with Twilight Princess, they did a good enough job with the control, but with Skyward Sword, I did not actually enjoy that as much.
Ugh, yeah.
I think they tried to be too ambitious with Skyward Sword. They tried to have the Wii Motion Plus and have precision sword tactics.
Yeah.
And more often than not, it just ended up being a little bit frustrating to get through some boss or some fights that really should not have been that challenging.
Especially when it's having trouble reading between the IR sensor and the gyrometer in the controller. A lot of those harried or tense moments create control conflict, and then you're just sitting there fucking swinging the Wiimote around, and you're either it's all left up to chance at that point. But
yeah, you might as well be playing Mario Party at that point. Which, not to dog on Mario Party, great game, but not what you're looking for when you're getting into Zelda.
Yeah, and honestly, it peaked it too. So,
Miles, go ahead, pimp your shit.
Oh, well, you guys already talked about it a little bit, but I'm the host of the Best Darn Diddly Review Show. It's a weekly Simpsons podcast for anyone who loves The Simpsons or ever has loved The Simpsons. You can find everything at bestdarndiddly.com, and then on Twitter, Instagram, it's at bestdarndiddly, bestdarndiddly@gmail, all of that good stuff. And then I also have a personal account where I talk a little bit more about wrestling and all things nerdy, and that's at Mr. Most Days Off.
Nice. Well done.
Very good.
Well pimped.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to come on the show and pimp my show. I had a lot of fun talking with you guys about a lot of random shit. I'm not really sure what I'm going to tell people this is about whenever they ask what we talked about, but it was fun. We had a good time talking about all things nerdy or not.
Our show is the conversational equivalent of the birth of America's railway system, where shit just goes wherever the fuck you want it to. No rhyme, reason. Yep.
And a foundation of immigrant workers.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, where is Jay?
That was great.
You make him dress up like a leprechaun whenever
he does that on his own.
Yeah, that's just his choice. That's just his Saturdays, huh?
He just river dance on into work.
Oh, don't get me Lucky Charms.
Oh man. All right.
One Cretan less pretty soon.
That's us, guys. I'm sorry. I've got to skedaddle because I've got chores happening. I'm pretty sure I should be shutting this oven down by now.
All right, fair enough. Yeah. In the meantime, we feed off your dialogue. If you want to get a hold of us, you can do this on Twitter, Facebook. We're on every social media.
Sorry, I wanted to do that.
No.
No, I think it's gone into the bridge by this point.
Let the actual music play.
All right, cue the actual music. I'm no replacement for that.
Yeah, thank you.
Marvelous cut of sound.
So you can find us on the Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram. Twitter and Instagram is where you'd probably enjoy us the most. I work really hard to make that thing entertaining.
Their Pornhub account's pretty good too.
Oh, hell yeah.
Redheads, man. Yeah.
Although arguably not really work. That's just enjoyable.
Anyway, thank you guys for joining us. Miles, thank you so much for joining on. This is, I hope you're probably never going to talk to us again after this.
Oh, hell no. It was a blast. I had a lot of fun. Thank you guys again so much for having me. Absolute blast talking with you guys. I love The Simpsons, obviously, but I also love having the opportunity to come and talk about things like Star Wars and video games and wrestling and all sorts of cool shit. So thank you for the opportunity. And if you aren't following these guys on Twitter, you totally should be, because they're a blast to chat with about things like The Simpsons and wrestling and movies and video games and all the shit we talked about.
And speaking of which, at the end of the month, we will be holding a Royal Rumble wrestling show. Miles,
Hell
I'm
yes.
invited to be on that. That is our favorite pay-per-view every single year.
Oh, mine too. And I think I'm going to drag my co-host who doesn't watch wrestling on for that one too. So we'll have to bring him into the fold.
Yeah. So Miles, to you and everybody else who is watching us, I have to say, welcome to the Guild.